All right, so today we're going to be looking at this fun math problem. So we're given a squared plus b squared equals 4 and c squared plus d squared equals 2. Find the quantity ac plus bd squared plus the quantity ad minus bc squared. Now, this one might look overwhelming, and you may not have a good idea as to how to approach it, but something that stands out to me is that we have 4 sets of variables here, and both, when summed of 2 variables squared, will give us one constant and the other constant, right? And what I can glean from here is, obviously, we don't have enough information to solve for A, B, C, and D, right? Or even for A and B and C and D, right? There's just not enough information given. So instead, we have to look at this bottom part and think, is there some way I can manipulate these numbers such that I can plug in these values, right, for 4 and 2? So is there a way I can find a squared plus b squared and c squared plus d squared in these numbers? Well, to start, first thing we should probably do is factor. So I'm going to take this and move it up here. And, I mean multiply it out, not factor. All right, so this term squared, we will get a squared c squared plus, and then we'll have a 2ab cd, part of my b, plus, this is b squared d squared, right? The square of the first term, the square of the second term, and then the 2 times the product of the 2 terms, right? And now we'll square this term, and we'll get, similarly, a squared d squared, and then the middle term will be minus 2, it'll be a b, a c, and a d in there, plus b squared c squared, right? And now if you notice, and you might see where I'm going with this now, these terms will cancel out because we have a positive and a negative. So what are we left with? We're left with a squared c squared plus b squared d squared plus a squared d squared plus b squared d squared, c squared, excuse me. And now, if you notice, these are looking pretty good, right? These look like, they might be a way of rewriting what we're originally given. And in fact, they are, right? So what we can do is we can group our terms and try factoring out our variables. So that is to say, we can try seeing if we can factor our a squared and b squared out and see what we're left with, right? So I'm going to look at these 2 terms first, right? And if I factor out an a squared, what will I be left with? Well, I'll be left with a c squared plus d squared. And now if you look at these terms, if I factor out a b squared, what will I be left with? Well, I'll be left with the c squared plus d squared. And now, hopefully, you can see where we're going with this, right? I can rewrite this simply as a squared plus b squared plus, times c squared plus d squared. So I'll find that we have 4 times 8. Skipped a step. Rather, we'll have 4 times 2 gives us 8 as our solution. Hopefully you guys found this interesting. I certainly did. And that's it for today's video.